So day 5 of graphing parabolas is basically the same thing as everything we've been doing before, just a different version of the equation. And that's what we're going to start with real quick. So first, when we look at the equation, this is just the same thing day 4 did, but a different view of the equation. And it's x minus h squared equals 4p times y minus k, right? Now, if the 4p is positive, that's going to tell you the graph opens up. If 4p is negative, right, you know that the graph is going to open down. I also want you to notice what is being squared here, right? X minus h is being squared, right? So if x is squared, it's going to open up or down. Now, if we switch it up and we say y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h, right? That means this opens if y is being squared, right? This time, that means it's going to open left or right. If 4p is positive, it will open right. If 4p is negative, right, it will open left. Okay? Now don't forget, we need to still be able to find the focus, the directrix, and the lattice rectum. Now remember, P is the distance from the vertex to the focus and the vertex to the directrix. And we're also going to use that concept of the length of the lattice rectum, right? The lattice rectum is always equal to 4p. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little more here. Okay, so let's go back to the notes and do a couple of examples here. So right away, if I look here, right, x is being squared. So I know it's up or down. Since this is negative, right, since 4p is equal to negative 1, that means this is going to open down. Now this is a little tricky because it's going to be kind of a decimal answer, so we got to guesstimate here a little bit. So right now, if 4p is equal to negative 1, that's going to tell us negative 4p is equal to negative 1, so p is equal to 1/4 or 0.25. Okay? Now our vertex, again, we take the opposite of negative 1, which is 1, and the opposite of 2, which is negative 2. That gives us our vertex. Our axis of symmetry, it's much easier to start your graph and then write that equation. So let's go ahead and plot our vertex at 1, negative 2. I know it opens up, right? Therefore, my axis of symmetry is going to be right here. And with that axis of symmetry, since it's a vertical line, remember, x equals a number is a vertical line. So in this case, it would be x equals, what value is repeating? The x value, so x equals 1. Now my focus, right, since this opens down, right, I know it opens down, I know the focus is always getting eaten by the parabola. So from here, I'm going to go down for the focus. I'm going to go down 0.25. So I'm going to guesstimate here. In the directrix, I would go up 0.25 and then draw that horizontal line. So my directrix now is real easy. If I do negative 2 and I go up 0.25, that puts me at y equals negative 1.75. Now my focus is going to be at the ordered pair. It's going to be 1 and then negative, if I go down 2.25, it's going to be negative 2.25. Now, my lattice rectum, right? Remember, your lattice rectum is 4p, which in this case is negative 1. Now remember, the lattice rectum gives you the width of your parabola. So, right now, if I look at it, if my focus is here, and the length of this lattice rectum is 1 unit, right? The length of this is 1 unit. Therefore, I have to go 0.5 on one side of the focus. This is my focus. And I'm going to go another 0.5 on the other side. So, if I go over a half here from my focus, then I go over a half here from my focus. Now I go to the vertex to that point, vertex to that point, and that gives me the width of my parabola. Okay, this is a little bit harder to see because of the decimals, so the next example should make it a little more clear. So the next one, right away I look, what's being squared? And that is x. Therefore I know this is going to open up or down. Since 4p is positive, I know it's going to open up. And if 4p is equal to 4, that tells me p is equal to 1. My vertex is the opposite of negative 1, which is 1. And the opposite of 1 is negative 1. So right away I'm going to plot my vertex at 1, negative 1. So my focus now, if p is 1 and it opens up, here's my vertex. I know my focus gets eaten by the parabola. So I'm going to go up 1 from the vertex. Okay? And there is my focus. And that ordered pair ends up being at 1, 0. Now my directrix is going to be the opposite way. Alright, so I'm going to go to my vertex and down 1, and there is my directrix. And this would have an equation as y equals negative 2. My axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line, right, that goes through the vertex here. Since it's vertical, it's going to be x equals 1. Now, I have to get the width of this parabola before I sketch it. So I need that lattice rectum, which is your 4p. And in this case, if 4p is equal to 4, that means when I plot my lattice, the endpoints of my lattice rectum, the focus has to be in the middle, right? Which means if this has a full length of 4, that means I have to go 2 on one side of the focus and 2 on the other. So if I go to my focus, which is this red dot here, I'm going to go 2 to the right, 2 to the left, and now from my vertex I go through like such. Okay? Now, the next one. This is where it's written a little weird. So we're going to rewrite this as y minus 1 all squared equals x. Right? So in this case, what's being squared now? And that's y. Right? So my y is being squared. So this would actually be x minus 0, right? The way it's written. And 4p would actually be that, number 1 in front. Because if I distribute 1, it doesn't change its value. So, since it's y squared, I know it's going to open right or left. Since 4p is positive 1, it's going to open right. If 4p is 1, that means p is 1/4 or 0.25 again. But now my vertex here, remember my x-coordinate is going to be 0. My y-coordinate is going to be 1. Remember, this is y minus k all squared equals x minus h. And my vertex is always at hk. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my vertex at 0, 1. Now my focus, I'm going to go to the, remember, this opens right. My focus has to get eaten. So from the vertex, I'm going to go to the right, 0.25. Then for my directrix, I'm going to go left, 0.25. And now my directrix is a vertical line. Since my directrix is a vertical line, this is going to be at x equals, if I go from 0 to the left, 0.25, that would put me at x equals, it's a vertical line, so it would be x equals, that would be negative 0.25. So now, my focus, right, is going to be at the ordered pair, 0.25, comma, 1. My axis of symmetry, if I draw that in, now this is a horizontal line that goes through the vertex. So that's going to be at y equals 1. Okay? Now, to get a sketch of my parabola, I need that lattice rectum again. Right? Which is the value of 4p, which is 1. Okay? That means, now, if this is my focus, the endpoints of my lattice rectum are going to be above and below it. Right? So, if it's 1 unit long, that means I'm going to go up 0.5 and down 0.5 from the vertex, or from the focus. So here, I'm going to go down 0.5, and I'm going to go up 0.5, and now I can sketch my graph. Alright, let's take a look at the last two here. Okay, so y minus 1 squared, right? Since y is squared, I know it's going to open left or right. Since it's negative 8, right, I know that this is going to open left. If negative 4p is equal to negative 8, p is equal to 2. My vertex, remember, it's x minus h, so that's got to be the x coordinate of my vertex, so the opposite of negative 2 is 2. The opposite of negative 1 is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my vertex at 2, 1. So, if p is 2, right, remember, I know this opens, this one opens left, and my vertex has to be eaten by the parabola. So I'm going to go left 2, and that would give me my focus, which ends up being at the ordered pair, 1, 0. Then I'm going to go right 2, and that would give me my directrix. Okay, so now my directrix would have an equation. It's a vertical line, so x equals 4. My axis symmetry is going to be a horizontal line through the vertex, which ends up being y equals 1. Now my lattice rectum is 4p, which in this case is 8. So if the length of my lattice rectum, so here's my focus, right? Now remember, this opens left, right? So if this opens left, I'm going to go up and down. How much? Well, if the length of this is 8, that means this side has to be 4 and this side has to be 4. So I'm going to go to my focus. I'm going to go up 4, down 4, and now if you look, that will give me a good idea of how wide the parabola would be. Okay? Now the last one, if I look at this, this is written in standard form, and we need to change that equation. So, since I see x squared, I know right away I'm going to complete the square on this. I'm going to move the 4y over and the 1 over. So, in this case, I would get x squared plus 6x plus some number equals, add 4y to both sides. So that would be 4y. subtract 1 from both sides, so it would be minus 1. Now if you remember, to complete the square here, I have to take half of 6 and square it, and that would give me 9. If I add 9 to this side, I'm going to add 9 to this side. When I go ahead and rewrite this as x plus 3 all squared equals 4y plus 8, because when I combine these I get plus 8. Now this is good, but I can't see or visualize what 4p is. So here's what I do. What number can 4 and 8 both be divided by? What's the largest number? That is 4. So I'm going to pull that 4 out, and I'm going to divide each of these by 4. And that leaves me with y plus 2. Now if you look, I have this in the form that we were just talking about. Alright, since x is being squared, I know this is going to be opening up or down. Since 4p is positive, I know it's going to open up. So it opens up. If 4p is equal to 4, p is equal to 1, my vertex is going to be at the opposite of 3 is negative 3. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and plot negative 3, negative 2. Now, since it opens up, I know my vertex is going to go up above, my focus is going to be above the vertex. So, if p is equal to 1, I know I'm going to go to my vertex, go up 1. From my directrix, I'm going to go down 1 and draw that horizontal line since it opens up, right? And now, my lattice rectum, if that is equal to 4, right? And look, that's my focus. The length of this is 4, so 2 on each side. So I go to my focus, right 2, left 2. Now the vertex to the endpoint of the lattice rectum, and there we go. So our axis symmetry is going to be at x equals negative 3. My focus is going to be at negative 3, negative 1. And my directrix is the horizontal line, y equals negative 3. Okay, go ahead and try the homework and check your answers.